When the world saw Can Yaman again, no one could believe it was the same man. The actor who once disappeared from the spotlight after a painful breakup had returned, but this time, he was glowing. Not the kind of glow that comes from fame or cameras, but from something much deeper: peace. His eyes told a story the headlines never could. There was no bitterness, no anger, just calm. And in that calm, people saw a version of Can they hadn't seen before: free, grounded, and unafraid to start again. Sometimes, he said quietly, you need to lose everything that weighs you down to finally see yourself clearly. For months, the media had speculated about his heartbreak, about why he had gone silent, about who left whom. But while everyone searched for gossip, Can was searching for balance. He started spending time alone, far from the red carpets, far from the noise. He focused on his health, his craft, his peace. And when he reappeared, the difference was shocking. Gone was the restless energy that fame had built around him. Instead, there was a quiet confidence, the kind that comes only from someone who has been broken and rebuilt himself piece by piece. Freedom, he explained, isn't about walking away from someone. It's about walking back to yourself. Those words hit millions like a wave. Because everyone had seen the pain, the breakup, the silence, the rumors, but no one expected this kind of rebirth. His transformation wasn't just physical. It was emotional, spiritual. He looked stronger, but also softer. The tabloids called it Can's shocking glow. Fans said it was the light of freedom. But Can didn't care what they called it. For the first time, he wasn't performing for anyone. He was simply living. And that, perhaps, was the biggest surprise of all. Because in a world obsessed with appearances, Can Yaman had done the rarest thing: he had chosen authenticity over image. I don't want to prove anything anymore, he said. I just want peace, love, and truth, whatever form they come in. As the cameras flashed that night, the world saw it clearly: heartbreak hadn't destroyed him. It had transformed him. And in that transformation, Can Yaman reminded everyone watching that sometimes, the most shocking glow doesn't come from success, it comes from freedom. Freedom, a word people often say but rarely understand. For Can Yaman, it wasn't about distance, or running away from the past. It was about healing. About breathing again after years of holding his breath. When his relationship ended, the world expected chaos, dramatic interviews, bitter posts, endless speculation. But instead, Can did the opposite. He went silent. He vanished from the spotlight completely. No statements. No reactions. Just silence. At first, people mistook it for weakness. But in truth, it was strength. Because silence was where he found himself again. I stopped trying to explain my life to people who were never in it, he said later. When you go quiet, you start hearing what your soul's been trying to tell you all along. He spent days by the sea, away from the cameras, sometimes training, sometimes just walking barefoot along the shore. No phone. No plan. No need to be anyone but himself. And that's when something shifted. He began to smile differently, not for attention, but out of gratitude. He started taking care of his body, his mind, his space. For the first time in years, he slept without thoughts chasing him. Freedom isn't about escaping someone, he admitted. It's about escaping who fame forced you to be. And that hit differently. Because the man who once lived under the flash of lights had now become a man of peace. The same intensity that once defined his roles now lived in his eyes, but it was softer, purer, wiser. Friends noticed the change first. He's calmer now, one said. He laughs more. He doesn't rush like before. It's like he finally exhaled after years of pretending to be okay. The glow people saw on him wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. The kind that comes only when you stop fighting the past and start forgiving it. I thought I had to win at everything, he reflected. But peace isn't something you win. It's something you allow. And that was it, the real transformation. The heartbreak that once seemed like an ending had actually been the beginning of something far greater: self-acceptance. His silence had saved him. His solitude had rebuilt him. And his freedom had given him back something he thought he'd lost forever: joy. When fans saw him again, they didn't see a man who had lost love. They saw a man who had found himself. And that, more than anything, was the glow that shocked the world. There's a kind of strength that only comes after you've been broken. A calm that follows the storm. And when people looked at Can Yaman after those silent months, they didn't see a man trying to recover, they saw a man reborn. He was different now. Not louder, not more distant, just real. The kind of real that makes people stop and look, not because he was acting, but because he finally wasn't. Pain has a way of stripping away everything fake, he said in a quiet moment. When you've been through enough, you stop pretending. Before the heartbreak, Can's world had been full of noise: schedules, cameras, headlines, expectations. But now, he lived slower. He listened more. He spoke less, but when he did, his words carried weight. He started reading again, not scripts, but books that reminded him of who he used to be before fame. He wrote. He traveled without announcing it. He cooked for himself, walked through markets unnoticed, and discovered the joy of anonymity. I used to think love had to be loud, he smiled. But the best kind of love is quiet, the one that feels like home. Fans who met him said there was something different in his energy. He was warmer, more present, more human. No walls. No ego. Just gratitude. One of his closest friends described it perfectly: he's not trying to impress anyone anymore. He's just peaceful. Like he made peace with the version of himself he used to fight. And that peace reflected in everything, in his interviews, his photos, even the way he carried himself. He didn't chase validation. He didn't need to explain. The silence that once scared him had now become his strength. I thought freedom meant being alone, he confessed. But now I understand, it means being okay with yourself, no matter who stays or leaves. It wasn't that he stopped believing in love, it's that he stopped believing in pretending. He wanted something raw, something that didn't depend on attention or image. And maybe that's why his glow felt so different this time. It wasn't about appearance, it was about alignment. His soul, his purpose, his peace, all finally in the same place. People online called it his transformation era. But to Can, it wasn't transformation. It was simply truth, the man he was always meant to be, finally free from everything that wasn't real. Because sometimes heartbreak doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. And as the world watched, Can Yaman didn't just move on, he rose. It happened quietly, no cameras, no interviews, no witnesses. Just a man and his thoughts on a cold morning in Istanbul. That was the day Can Yaman finally let go. Not of a person, but of the weight he'd been carrying for years. He woke up early that day, long before the city came to life. He walked through the streets without being recognized, wearing a simple hoodie and a beanie. No bodyguards, no schedule, just silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy at first, but slowly starts to heal you. As he reached the Bosphorus, the sun began to rise. The water shimmered, and for the first time in a long time, he felt still. I used to wake up every morning trying to be someone the world expected, he thought. But today, I just want to be me. He took a deep breath, looked out at the horizon, and thought about everything that had brought him there: the love that once felt eternal, the fame that once seemed like a dream, and the pain that had changed everything. He realized that love doesn't always end in anger. Sometimes, it ends in understanding. And sometimes, letting go isn't weakness, it's mercy. Mercy for yourself. I don't blame her, he whispered to the wind. I just thank her, because losing her made me find myself. There were no tears, no dramatic music, no speech. Just a quiet smile, the kind that comes from a man who has finally made peace with his past. He stayed there for a while, watching the seagulls cross the sky, feeling the cold air brush his face. For once, he didn't feel the need to rush anywhere. He didn't feel the weight of the world on his shoulders. And that's when he understood it. Freedom wasn't about forgetting. It was about remembering without pain. Healing isn't loud, he would later say in an interview. It's a conversation between you and your heart, one that finally ends with forgiveness. That day, he returned home lighter. Not because everything was fixed, but because he had stopped trying to fix it. He made coffee, opened the windows, and smiled at the sunlight pouring in. He realized he didn't need to prove anything anymore, not to the world, not to anyone, not even to himself. And maybe that's what made his glow so powerful. It wasn't from success. It wasn't from revenge. It was from peace. That morning, somewhere between the quiet waves of the Bosphorus and the first rays of daylight, Can Yaman didn't lose anything. He finally found everything. Months had passed since that quiet morning by the Bosphorus. The world had moved on, or at least, it thought it had. But when Can Yaman stepped out in public again, everything stopped. Cameras flashed, headlines exploded, and fans whispered the same thing everywhere: he's different. It wasn't the clothes, the hair, or the style. It was his energy, calm, confident, unshakable. The glow everyone talked about wasn't from fame. It was from freedom. I stopped chasing perfection, he said softly. Now I just want peace, and to give love without fear. The pain that had once shaped him no longer controlled him. He had turned it into fuel, not to impress anyone, but to become someone better. He worked on new projects, traveled alone, smiled without reason. But behind every new moment, there was wisdom, born from heartbreak, carved by silence. When you finally stop fighting what hurt you, he reflected, you realize it was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to wake you up. Those who met him noticed it immediately. The intensity was still there, the fire that made him who he was, but now it burned differently. Softer. Wiser. Real. He no longer spoke about the past, but you could feel that he had made peace with it. He no longer needed closure, because he had found something stronger: clarity. I learned that love isn't something you own, he said in a recent interview. It's something you honor, even when it's gone. That simple line became a phenomenon. Fans wrote it under his photos, turned it into quotes, shared it across the world. Because it wasn't just a statement, it was a reflection of his journey. From heartbreak to healing. From silence to serenity. From fame's chaos to life's simplicity. And perhaps that's what truly shocked everyone, not that Can Yaman had changed, but that he had done it without noise, without bitterness, without needing to prove a thing. He stood taller now, not because he was stronger, but because he was finally free. Free from expectations. Free from pain. Free from the version of himself that fame had built and heartbreak had broken. The man the world once pitted had become a symbol of rebirth. Freedom changed everything, he said, looking out at the lights of Istanbul. Because when you find peace, you don't need to be understood, you just need to be real. And as he walked away that night, quiet, calm, unbothered, the world didn't see a man who lost love. It saw a man who found himself. That was the glow everyone kept talking about. Not the glow of fame, but the light of a soul finally free.